Hello, welcome to another Spilling the Ink. This time we've got guest Ryan Aussie Smith, who is an actual Australian. I've tested this fact. I know this to be true.
Okay, you've tested the fact. How did you test it? Do I taste Australian? Do you just kind of like lick my arm, or what's the deal?
Yeah, definitely. I have tasted Australian, so, but this is a G-rated show, so we don't want to go further into that.
Setting it back on you, yeah. I'll ask the questions here.
Full disclaimer, Ryan Aussie Smith is also my husband, so
it's not weird. So
yeah,
everything is fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. Don't worry about it, kids.
Consensual arm licking. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, thank you so much for entertaining me and coming on this show. One of the reasons why is we just had Australia Day. So I'm like,
yes,
this is the mystery to Americans. What is Australia Day? How is it? Is it like 4th of July? Because you've experienced both.
Right. So, I mean, it's very similar to 4th of July in that I'd say Americans and Australians like barbecuing. For like a celebratory thing. So that's kind of a generic thing all round, is people kind of gather, you have a couple of drinks, you have some barbecue. I will say 4th of July is a little bit more crazy with its fireworks. So we don't really do fireworks in Australia because it's usually pretty dry there and everything lights on fire. So it's not really a big thing. And I know, the whole, the fireworks thing isn't quite as big, but usually Australia Day, you get together, you have barbecue and like kind of spend time with family. Sometimes there's maybe a fireworks display put on by the city, maybe picnics or something like that. But it's usually pretty much just being chill and if you're going all out, you wear some Australian things like one of those hats with the cork things on it, which nobody wears in Australia, but like it's kind of like silly and it's like this is Australian, but it's really not. But just pretty much like that. But I'd say the biggest difference is the fireworks. 4th of July is fun in America because of fireworks, and Australia we just kind of chill out and drink and eat all day.
Yeah, and not light everything on fire.
And try not to light things on fire. I mean, things happen, but that's usually I'd say our New Year's is more like 4th of July, because there are fireworks and people get a little bit more rowdy. But Australia Day is Australians are known for being laid back and kind of like, I don't know, like, it's all good, mate. Like that is the epitome of that day. That's the description of that day, is just kind of sitting around in deck chairs, just having a drink, having some barbecue and going like that.
That's funny. All right, you said about the hats with the corks. What are the corks for? Like, why would you have a hat with corks? I'm picturing this. I know what you're talking about.
So the hats with corks on it, it originates from like deep in the desert, where it's like 80% of Australia is desert. So you don't have to go too far from the coast to get to the desert, which is why all of our, well, I'm not going to say all of them, but like a majority of our cities are coastal. They're all right near the coast, because that's where the water is. You get into like, say, the red center, there's not very much moisture. So it's desert, and the flies, we call them blowflies. They're kind of bigger. They're like chunkier flies. And even the small flies as well, they'll just stick to you, and you can go like this and try and wave them off, but they'll stick to you because you have moisture. And it's kind of annoying having to flick flies. And then when there's a crap ton of them, they're like trying to get in your mouth, and it's just like they stick to you. So those corks were originally like very similar to, I know there's animals that have like the tails and things like that. They keep the flies off by flapping them around. Same sort of thing, is you've got those corks, you jiggle your head a little bit, it gets the flies away.
Okay.
Some people actually use them, but Kind
of sounds like it could be the good basis for a horror story. The blowflies that I don't know, you lost your corks and they're just swarming you and they get like a
Oh
little
no, I've
invasive
lost
and
my corks.
aggressive.
It's just dangly strings. They're useless now. No, not really. Or on the flip side of that, you could have like a serial killer that has like razor blades instead of corks, and then he like kind of spins his hat around and I don't know, cuts his face up really bad. So not really, but
maybe that's the torture. You get blowflies or razor blades. That's your
like
choices.
a G-rated horror, and the corks are all gone, and the search for the corks, and there's flies, and you have to kind of swat. Not really. I like.
And they're angry flies,
Angry?
aggressive
No,
flies.
they're Australian flies. They're not angry. They're just like, dude, I need some water.
Oh, true. Right, the laid back thing.
Yeah, the
already
laid back
discussed
thing.
that.
Lazy flies. Yep.
Well, all right. Another question, bridging off of how is Australia Day different from 4th of July in America, is what? This is a question all Americans want to know. What do you put on the Barbie? Because you said
Not
you barbecue. No.
No, I don't think I've ever had shrimp on the Barbie. I don't think I've ever had that. I might have. It's a little bit fancy for Australians. I mean, you buy shrimp. I'm sure that they probably do it in there's coastal cities, but like if you get shrimp real quick or something like that, I don't know. I've never had it. Maybe I'm not a real Australian because of that, but usually we'll have like lamb. Lamb is really big in Australia. There's like a big Greek culture, and also just barbecued lamb is just really, really good. But we have usually the classic thing. We call them snags and rissoles, and that probably doesn't mean anything to most people, but snags are sausages. So just like sausages, basic like breakfast sausage, maybe a little bit less salty, and not really bratwurst, not really like the kind of Germanic, really spicy sausage, just kind of a mix between the two of them. You have that with a little bit of bread and like maybe some chopped up onions and kind of make like a hot doggy sort of thing. And a rissole is kind of like a hamburger, but it's more breaded. So it's like a kind of a thick hamburger. And those are kind of the staples for most barbecues in Australia, is maybe some like chopped up onions and snags and rissoles. And then if you're getting a little bit fancy, you might have some lamb or some steak or something like that cooked up on it. Steak sandwiches are a big thing, very fine steak, kind of sliced up. You throw that on there, then you have it between two toasted pieces of bread. I'm trying to think of like everything that I've had on a barbecue, and it's making me hungry. Another one is you can have like egg on toast. So you get like an egg and you chop out a circle in the middle and you crack an egg in the center of that and cook it on the barbecue both sides with like butter on both sides.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our barbecues aren't just the grills. You've got like a flat side for cooking some things, and then the grill side on the other side. So
Nice.
so that's one as well that we used to have, and that might just be a my family thing. But yeah, it's pretty much
Sounds
anything that cooks good on a barbecue, you just throw it on there and see how it goes. But that's the basic thing. We really don't do barbecue like in the US with the ribs and the sauces and things like that. That's a very kind of American thing. And once again, I'm speaking from somebody that grew up in South Australia, so they might do that on the other coasts. But that's kind of what I grew up with.
Okay, so you're essentially saying, and this could be the last show we ever do if we make somebody mad, but you're calling Outback Steakhouse a liar. It feels like.
How so?
Because they say that the shrimp on the Barbie is like one of their big advertisements, which you don't even call them shrimp, do you?
Well, so there are shrimp. I've been away from Australia so long. It's like I've been away for like 11, 12 years, and now we're in Brazil. But like we probably do have shrimp a lot of the time. Like I can see cooking prawns on the Barbie. I think prawns. Let me look this up real quick. Prawns and shrimp, I think, are the same thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
It might be that prawns are like. Here we go. Prawns tend to be larger than shrimp and often taste sweeter. So, because I keep getting asked this question, I'm like, I'm pretty sure prawns are the same sort of thing. But yeah, I just don't think you cook too much seafood on the barbecue. Maybe if you're like wrapping it up in metal or something like that. But
like foil.
Yeah, prawns are more expensive than shrimp, so they are actually different. But I just didn't ever do that. That just wasn't a thing that was done um, with me. But once again, like it's just like in America where every single state does something different. I'm sure that there's like super coastal areas where they do cook up shrimp on the barbie, and it might be a thing. I will say specifically, like from all of the Australian things versus non-Australian things, Foster's beer is not a thing. We don't drink Foster's beer. I don't know anybody that drinks Foster's beer. We don't have it on any tap, like, the local beer. There's no Foster's beer taps in Australia that I know of. That is purely an export. So you've all been tricked. You've all been hacked by Crocodile Dundee back in like the 90s or 80s or whenever that movie was. So I apologize.
That's too funny. Okay, so if you are drinking a Foster's beer right now, sorry, you've been frauded.
pretty much. And I was surprised that like the export beer into America is like it's freaking huge. It's like, yeah, Australians like Foster's beer real big. Like, okay, sure, why not?
Well, you said you're in Brazil now.
Yes.
Surprise.
Yeah, you are as well.
Yeah, I know. And after this, I'm like, do you want to make lunch after this? Because I'm hungry now that
exactly.
you talked about this. How would you say, because you've lived in 3 countries now, you've lived in Australia, America, and now Brazil. I know you've only been here a month. Personally, I'm very aware of when you got here. How are the 3 countries different to you? Like, what do you think? Like, what are some of the big similarities and big differences?
So compared to say like Australia, America, and South America, so thus far, it's actually interesting. It's kind of like in Brazil, thus far is very similar to a mix between America and Australia. In that in Australia, there's number one, the metric system, but a big thing is kind of the size of everything. In America, when you're driving around, all of the roads are super spacious and the sidewalks are super spacious, and there's a lot of space and maneuverability. And I know different locations, different situations, obviously smaller towns, et cetera, but it just seems like everything is kind of more compact in Brazil, very similar to Australia. You've got more one-lane roads, like in America or in North America, you've got like the interstates and the highways, and you've got 4 or 5 lanes, and everybody's driving big honking cars and trucks and different things like that. Whereas you get down here and in Australia, and everything is more compact, because it's like, well, what are you doing? You're doing this particular job. Do you really need a 26-ton truck to haul a couple of pieces of cement or things of cement? No, if you're an actual construction worker, you'll have a truck, like a proper truck, like a box truck or something like that, to haul things around. So I think the size difference is a big thing, but there's also a lot of Americanized things here in this country as well. So you've got a lot of the shops are very similar. It's very, very weird, because it is a mix between the two. The driving on the road is very similar to in North America, whereas you've got the metric system, so you've got kilometers per hour and different things like that. So I'm like, oh, I've got to get back into that in Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. So it's kind of a weird mix. I feel at home because I've lived in America for so long, and I lived in Australia for so long. So I come here, and the only difference is everybody speaks Portuguese. So, but there's a lot of English, so it's good.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of my impression too. I feel as an American coming here, and I only got to spend a little bit of time in Australia. Everything to me, and I know you've probably heard this a million times because I say it to you all the time. It's like living in dollhouse stuff. Everything is so tiny and lightweight, and like, oh, look at this pretend washing machine. Oh no, that is the washing machine.
Yeah, but I can pick it up. Yeah, that's to move it. Yeah, it is very similar to that. And I will say another thing that I find similar, Australia versus America for South America. There's butchers, there's the bakery, there's the little shops that Walmart hasn't kicked out of town. And that's the thing, is you go to country Australia, you've still got the shoe shop, you've still got the clothes shop, You've still got the bakery, the butcher. There's a couple of different butchers in a town. There's the specific places where you have individuals that have done that their whole life. You go to the butcher, they know what they're doing as a butcher. Whereas in America, and not taking away from anybody, but you go to Walmart and you've got a butcher that's been butchering, like they could be there for like a month. So obviously it's like with repetitive things, you become more skillful, and you're not being taught by your father. You're being taught by Walmart with their basic, like kind of, you just need to get the food out as fast as possible. Or it's pre-cut or something like that. So the specialty people, like I went to a pharmacy, and the person that was in the pharmacy had 4 years of training and like a bachelor's degree essentially in pharmacology and like all of these things. And they were very, very interested in the ailments that I had, which was a little bit of stomach upset because the food is so rich here. And then they're like asking all of these questions. Whereas if you go to a pharmacy, you just grab things that you want in Walmart 9 times out of 10. And yes, you can ask questions, but they're not as obsessed with what you're getting, which is, it's specialists. So just an interesting thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I'm not going to say if one is better than the other right now, but
No,
I mean, there's
yeah.
good and bad to both. But I do think it's kind of cool to have somebody like a specialist. They are into this. This is like what they're doing. So you can pretty much guarantee you're going to get like a very intense, focused, whatever steak.
On the flip side, it's kind of like going into a car dealership and the guys are coming up and they're like, do you need help? And you're like, oh, shit. Okay, yeah, I guess I can use some help. And they're like, here's a bunch of information, except it's all in Portuguese. So there's that as well. That's kind of fantastic. But if you've got a translator, or you just make sure they know that you're not fantastic at Portuguese yet, then they're like, oh, okay. And they pat you on the head and send you on your way. So...
All right. Well, how's your Portuguese coming anyways?
I can say I can't speak Portuguese, so eu não falo português, apenas inglês. Pequeno. So, and then I get my phone out and we do some little translations. So, yeah, after the move, very, very difficult to start learning a completely new language when you're getting everything sorted. And once we've got it sorted, we'll get some trainers and some things, but being immersed in the language is definitely going to help, because you do pick up more and more, and it's a necessity. You should learn the language of the country that you go to. I'm very, very adamant about that. So
yeah. Well, and I think what everybody just got to hear is Portuguese spoken with an Australian accent. So you don't get to hear that every day.
Yeah, there was more g'days in it than like, we'll get somebody who speaks Portuguese. They're like, what the hell is he saying? Like, why is there mate? Like, what is mate? Mate is mating between animals. Like, I don't understand.
Good day, no fala Portuguese, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no fala Portuguese, mate. It's nasally and it's got to raise up at the end, mate. It's like, is that a question? Yeah.
Do you not speak Portuguese?
And you just run away smiling with your bottle cap hat. Yeah.
Well, going back to bottle caps, another question that all Americans seem to want to know is everything really poisonous there?
Speaking of bottle caps?
Yeah,
bottle caps poisonous?
Yeah, no. Is everything? Do you have to defend from everything? Like the blowflies are probably not toxic, but
so I was like, well, what bottle caps are poisonous? And it's like corks as well. And I said it wrong, but I'm like,
Yeah, the Australian bottle caps, are they poisonous?
Yeah, I'm like, it sounds like a plant, like a bottle cap plant is poisonous. But anyway, so is everything poisonous? I'm not going to say everything is poisonous. It's just a vast majority of things are. It's one of those things where not everything can kill you, but and the easiest way is saying, you've got the rattlesnake, okay, in North America, you've got a rattlesnake and it's poisonous and it can kill you, but it's only in these specific areas, okay. Whereas in Australia, you look at, say, the king brown, and you look at the little map of where are they actually located, and it's the entire location, so it could be anywhere. So it's not necessarily that everything is poisonous, just it's the things that we have are not localized in one area, they're kind of everywhere. You can get redback spiders, which are poisonous, everywhere. You can get bloody brown recluse spiders, which are white tips. They're everywhere. And like this, I'm sure it's not like everywhere, but it's a vast majority of all the places that has inhabitants. And that's kind of the thing is when you grow up, you know, okay, most snakes, like if you're not very good at like seeing what snakes are snakes, yeah, they're probably poisonous. So you generally, if you've got animals, you kill them, or if they keep coming back, it's just a thing that you grow up knowing. Whereas in America, not everything is poisonous because it's just different climates. There's a lot of different climates in North America, whereas Australia is generally, it's either kind of dry and hot or it's tropical and hot, and that's about it.
You get two choices.
Yeah, I mean, we do have some mountains with a bit of snow, but it doesn't get down to like the super minuses, like minus 30 degrees Celsius, or minus like, what is it, like 50 degrees Fahrenheit or some crap like that. And that's like pretty much the top half of North America, like connected to Canada. That's just winter. It's like that. Yeah, Australians would die. They're just done.
Well, you saw you saw your first snow in America, in the North
Correct.
America.
Yeah, I'd never seen snow until I came to Kansas City, and then I acted like a bit of a weirdo when I first saw it. Came out of the facility and stuck my face in it and put my hat in it. Just kind of like rubbed it on myself. I didn't lick it though because I was told not to. But
just the yellow snow.
But yeah, it was a lot more fluffy. I was kind of like thinking it was going to be like those ices or the ice cone things with the syrup in them. That's what I thought snow was. Because it's like, oh yeah, it's ice, it's frozen water. That's what it is. And then I was like, oh, it's fluffy. And then it was cold. And then I was like, I'm good.
And no flavoring, no delicious flavoring, no blueberry snow.
I don't know that. There was some like lemon flavored snow off to the side, but once again, you got angry at me when I was trying to taste it, so it was no good.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, go figure.
Another question, I do know a lot of these answers, but we're like, for all the people who don't have the opportunity to daily quiz in Australian.
Yes.
Well, actually, I want to go back a little bit to the poisonous animals, because we just had a poisonous animal common to Australia, but it showed up in Brazil, and that was cane toad, right? Cane toad?
So I'm pretty sure it's a cane toad. We weren't 100%. It was just big ass toad in the backyard, and it looked like a cane toad. That's why we took some photos. It was a lot darker. Usually cane toads are kind of like and this is kind of nasty, but like a pussy yellow. We don't like cane toads. They're bad. So it's like a pussy yellow toad with warts all over it and poison. But for those that don't know what a cane toad is, a cane toad was originally introduced into Australia to take care of pests because they're like very aggressive toads. They're very big. They're like the size of a dinner plate. They're like freaking huge. And they originated from South America. And they're just they're a predator. And they'll eat mice. They'll eat like bugs. They'll eat little snakes. They'll eat all sorts of crap. But the bad thing about them is that yes, they're very good at killing those things, but then they reproduce and there's no natural predators, or the natural predators that eat them die because they've got a lot of excreted poison on both sides of their neck. So if a dog eats them or even bites them, they die. So that kills off a lot of the native animals in Australia because they're like, oh, this is a big chunky hunk of meat. I'm going to eat this. It doesn't look poisonous because it's not super colorful, which usually all animals are when they're poisonous, and it's a real issue. So there's the classic thing in Australia, especially in South Australia, because there's a lot on the East Coast, and the classic like joke is that you play golf with them and knock them back into Queensland and Victoria and New South Wales because they're not good. There's like beer commercials that show that. It's probably not very humane, but that you can kill as many as you want in Australia because they are a pest, and there's like no positive to having them because they're a pest. So we saw one here. For me, I mean, they're kind of chunky, so if I see too many of them, I'll probably start killing them maybe, or I'll just like get them in a bucket and throw them over the fence and they can just go on their way. It's just I don't want my dogs dying from like
Yeah.
playing with them. It's like,
No, I
because it's
agree with
literally
that.
they put a paw on it, or they lick it, or they snap it slightly, and they die. And that's like, you know,
There's
at
a
least with a
nice
snake, it has to
river.
bite you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a nice river near here. They can go
Yeah.
swim there.
They can go there. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's possibly a cane toad here, which is interesting. But they are native to this area as well, so it's like, yeah, it is native. So
Yeah. Well, how about, speaking of native things that I'm pretty sure are not here, how about a drop bear? I know you actually wrote a story about a drop bear. It was like the big mystery. You know, some Americans think that that's like a fairy tale told to us to keep us out of Australia. Some people think it's really true.
Well, no, it's not to keep you out of Australia. You just need to be careful. They're very similar to koalas. They look just like koalas, but they can kill you. Like drop out of the tree and just like bite you on the neck and just like really jack you up. But they only like tourists, though. They've got a taste for tourists. Is
that because the meat is not sun bleached? Do you think? Like fresher?
Well, it's probably like the magics. We've got our Australian magics. It could be that, it's just we eat too much Vegemite, so it like taints our bloodstream, or something along those lines. And that is like some of the common ways that you can get rid of a drop bear so it doesn't get you is to wear forks in your hair so they're pointing up. Drop bear will see it. They're like, oh, I don't want to jump on that. It might prick me. A little bit of Vegemite behind the ears because, it's very Australian and you want to pretend you're Australian, and apparently we do that. And different things like that. I mean, like just off the top of my head, if you wear underwear on your head, that could be a deterrent. Who knows? I think that they wouldn't like that. But no, drop bears aren't real.
I wouldn't. because they think you're that. Look at that weirdo walking on his hands. Like,
exactly. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to eat that. But no, it's an urban legend, myth type thing that we like to screw around with foreigners when they come over here and are tourists. And you knew that. But
why did you have me wearing Vegemite behind my ears the whole time?
Because it's like a really good smell. I like it. It's very attractive.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. It's different reasons. I wrote a story about it because I was in America and I was like, oh yeah, let's write a classic Australian animal type mythos that isn't really known in this area, and I think I did it justice. The drop bear kind of thing. I kind of mixed it in with animal testing and different things like that to create a drop bear, and the monster is human created, but it's not really like natural, but it is actually a thing. And it was a short story that we wrote for the storytelling certification. We had to have a performance test and different things like that. And I wrote it for that.
Yeah, that book is called Community Voices. I don't remember which volume, but from Woodneath Press.
The one with Ryan Aussie Smith and Angela Yoroko Smith in it.
Yeah, obviously the best edition.
The best, it was the best one.
I was a little bit romantically like, aw, like for writers. That was our first table of contents that we ever shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like being writer married. And then we did Zombies with Douglas Dre. I can't remember anything else about that one except the stories. I can't remember what edition or.
That would have technically been the first book that we worked on together, but it took a while because that was at the start of 2020, and then everything kind of went out the window at that point. So it was just like, nah, it's coming out when it's coming out. So
Well, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to also thank our sponsor. We have an anonymous sponsor today. But thank you very much. Because of the generous sponsor package donation, we can keep doing this. We can do more shows like this and have more guests on. But before we go, where can we find you, Ryan Aussie Smith? I mean, I know where I can find you, but where can other people find you? And what are some of the things that you want people to find you on?
Very, very loaded question right there. So finding me, I do dabble in a little bit of writing. I do some voice acting, and I was doing streaming on Twitch. at Ryan Aussie Smith at Twitch. So you just go onto Twitch, and like there's video games and just chatting in a community and different things like that for those that know that. And I have taken a bit of a hiatus for both health reasons and also for the move. I was getting a little bit sick, and we've kind of worked on that when I've been over in Brazil. But I should be starting that up in the next month or so again. So if you just go onto Twitch, the platform it's like a streaming platform for like gaming and just kind of chatting, and a lot of creatives are on there and different things like that. So just write in Ryan Aussie Smith. No, actually not Ryan Aussie Smith. It's Aussie Man Plays on that one. It's like my name is Ryan Aussie Smith, and I was reading it. But yeah, Aussie Man Plays. So, you know, I'm playing off of the whole Australian thing as well. And yeah, just drop by and say g'day and say, hey, I know you from Angela's show, and you were talking about forks in your hair and stuff like that. And yeah, I'll say hi. I don't really remember that because it was so long ago, but okay.
Sure.
And yeah, that's where you can meet me. Otherwise, Ryan Aussie Smith on all socials. Just Ryan Aussie Smith on Twitter, Facebook, and all the other things, and you'll be able to find me.
Awesome. And we will have links below in this show. So if you want to go check out some more Ryan Aussie Smith, just look in the links description below of this show.
Awesome sauce. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This has been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. I have a suspicion you will be on more, because I'm going to kidnap you and force you, because I know you can't get away. I also want to tell everybody, coming up next week, we're going to have a haiku, because the first of the month is always the poetry. First Saturday of the month show is always kind of focused to poetry. So we're going to have Anton Kanker, guest, and Amy Zollers. After that is going to be Lee Murray talking about the upcoming Unquiet Spirits, which is an anthology that is like a lot of excitement about there. And then we're going to finish up the month with Eric Shapiro talking about making his new movie, The Tightster. And that is pretty sexy, racy stuff there. So I just want to let you know. There is images on Instagram of Eric Shapiro wearing tights, and he's been tight shopping.
So it's not about a tightrope walker, because that's exactly the image. So now I've got an image of a tightrope walker in tights with like Eric Shapiro doing it. Okay,
Eric
fantastic.
Shapiro is that type. Yeah, so
a little bit of like rouge and a little bit of makeup, like the ruby red lips. Okay, perfect.
Absolutely.
I can see that.
Very upset because apparently there's been a tights run, and so he went to go shopping for tights, and the tights were all gone. So I thought, see, I'm hearing different things. A run in the tights, you know, that's when it's damaged. So I was like, oh no. He's like, oh no, my tights. But okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Just the way that you're saying it. But anyway, now that sounds fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to have you on. I'm going to go feed you lunch now to say thank you.
Perfect.
For being on.
Sounds good.
And thank you, everybody. And we will see you next week.
Bye.